firstly, I'd like to ask you, President Kagame says that people outside Rwanda should stop criticizing his policies and certainly in many ways mind their own business, he says, and that any assessment of where Rwanda is today, that it needs to take into account recent history. Now, is this a fair point?
Well, it is a point that was raised in various occasions. United Nations mentioned this in a report in 2008, saying that the human rights situation in Rwanda should be ameliorated. And a very recent report written by Amnesty International was calling to stop the harassment during the pre-electoral campaign. So as the voting has already been occurring outside of Rwanda, it is a continuous, ongoing claim that Rwanda has its own way of seeing democracy. President Kagame has been in office for 17 years. He may be staying in office till 2034, and therefore a certain number of human rights activists outside of Rwanda are claiming that democracy is not assessed and there was not a reality in this election. And this is one of the aspects that was also raised a few months ago during the referendum to amend the constitution, which allows President Kagame to run for a third term of office. The figures were speaking by themselves, as 98.3% of the voters accepted the reform of the constitution.
Well, now, on paper, we do have three candidates running. These are two other people besides President Kagame. But of course, there is little to no doubt as to who will be the victor in the vote. But walk us through really the current state, then, of the Rwandan opposition.
Well, the Rwanda opposition hasn't been authorized by the National Electoral Committee to run. As you rightly mentioned, there are only three candidates. The leader of the Green Democratic Party, Frank Habineza, and of course another runner for this election, independent journalist Philippe Mbapia-Mana. But all of the other candidates were not authorized to run, and the real opposition, National Congress of Rwanda, the FPU, the Democratic United Front, was not authorized to run, and therefore the results may be already known, as the election polls, the 2,300 polls are going to be the election will stop in a few hours, and the opposition has already said by statement yesterday and of course in a few hours that the opposition will not accept the result of the election, as it is not fair and honest election, as they are been saying in 2003 and 2010 when President Kagame was elected with 90% of the polls.